What is good, my boys and girls? Hopefully, maybe. Huh? Wait, what? Huh? It's your boy Eli. So we got a W video for you today. We're gonna get on to more of the interviews. We're getting to the end of the story of Death Stranding and explaining it and everything. We're gonna explain the story. If you didn't see the previous episodes, we have gotten into Dead Man, Die Hard Man, Heart Man, Mama Locked Me Fragile, Higgs. Like we've gotten into it. So in this video, we're gonna use this as a clearing up, like these extra bits, right? There's a lot of extra bits, right? And we're gonna clear them up. So we're gonna just go as we go. We're gonna clear them up, but the idea is we're gonna start with Bridges' staff. That's the kind of the first idea here, and we'll see if we can also fit in some other stuff with that. But we're gonna start with Bridges' staff, and we're basically just clearing up loose ends, you know, stuff that's kind of just extra stuff that doesn't really need their own dedicated video. So this video might be longer because of that, but the point is we're about to get it in. So if you're ready for that, go ahead and strap on in. Know what I'm saying? But like I said, if you didn't see the previous episodes, description down below, you can see it right there for you, waiting for you. See the previous episodes, you can see what we talked about previously in Death Stranding. We got a lot of Death Stranding content on the channel coming. So either way, we're gonna start with Bridges' staff for this video. Clearing up loose ends. And this first one is, I don't know, I mean, it's alright. It's not really much here, but it's just one of the people at the distribution centers west of Capital Knot City, Benjamin Hancock. You know, he's talking about, this one's called 2 years ago, distribution center west of Capital Knot City. Very simple. But he doesn't really say much. He's like, okay, people were freaked out, you know, because he's talking about the first expedition. You know, people were freaked out. They don't even want to go outside. He says, we don't know what's going on in Central Capital, let alone how Amelie and the others who kept heading west are doing. But something doesn't feel right, you know? So foreshadowing. Then he talks about mules. You know, he's saying, what's going on with them? Why is there so many? He says they're not out to get us, they're out to get our cargo. But especially since it doesn't change the fact that they're not making our work any easier, especially since a lot of these guys used to be first-rate porters and could run rings around us if they hadn't, you know. But he's like, we're just gonna keep chugging along until we got the stuff with the Cupid working, you know, up and running, and we got all the connected stuff. He doesn't say much. It's a bunch of yap, to be real. But on to the next one. It's Timefall and Power Failures. And in Timefall and Power Failures is exactly what it says, but it's by Igor, the guy in the beginning of the game that nobody remembers. Not even I did. You know, I'll hear about him again. I'll be like, oh yeah, Igor. Yeah, Brody who got absolutely smoked on, tried to shoot himself in the head, and it didn't work out when the BT got him. But Igor, that guy, everyone forgot who he was. I'm gonna be honest, it's been a minute, you know. I don't even know his name, but that dude was talking in this one 3 years ago. Again, he doesn't say much. It's a bunch of just words, but the point is, because I'm trying to summarize, there's not much interesting stuff here. He's just talking about how, this is the title, Timefall and Power Failures, Timefall creates power failures. You don't even have to read it to understand that's exactly what it's talking about. He's just saying that the world was different before, and now he's seeing that it's like scary when you have this different stuff. You notice the signs of, you know, like the clouds, when BT's coming and all that different stuff. You notice the sounds, sights, you know, you see the clouds, the clouds, you see, you know, an inverse rainbow, and that guarantees something's coming. But he says changes in the air, smell in the wind, and then, yeah, you know, it's about to come, and, you know, there's about to be some BT, chiralium, mumbo jumbo, weird stuff, and that's it. He said, I'm younger than I look. My big bro'd take a whole lot of pleasure in telling you that if he could see me now. That boy yapping. So yeah, not a lot there. But the third one, is this how it's going to be? There's not much here. We're literally just finishing things up. So the Lake of Ground Zero. This one is by Victor Frank, who is at Port Knot City. Apparently, he is at Port Knot City. So that's who we're talking about. And this one's a little sad because Victor Frank, as you notice, has the same last name as Igor. So he's brothers with Igor, or I think. Technically, I think that's his brother. Yeah, but yeah, his brother's Igor, and it looks like they almost look like twins, to be honest. But he's just talking about how, you know, it's the same thing Die Hardman said before, where stuff dropped and he believed that it was, you know, or sorry, the stuff exploded, the void outs, and they thought it was like maybe nukes or something. That's what he used to think. But then it happened all around and they realized what it really was. But then he says, things are not looking up. I just got told my kid's brother is still alive. To be honest, I don't even know why it says kid's brother, because that's his brother. Word is he's heading up corpse disposal team in Capital Knot City. Handled his Call of Duty well enough to get picked for the second expedition. 3 more years and he'll be out here with me. Can't wait to see him again. And we know what happened to Igor, bruh. We know what happened to Igor, bro. That's a little sad, bro. Also, if you don't notice, like my thing, it's a thing I do. I replace swear words with something like funny or stupid. Sometimes I just go, ugh, or, you know, something like that. But the S word, if you know the word, you know, it sounds like, you know, it's like, sounds like duty, you know, so I replace it with Call of Duty. So I handled his Call of Duty well enough. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, the word I'm talking about, it's the only S word that is used a lot, that one. So I replaced that with Call of Duty. It's fun. Anyway, just for those who don't know, yeah, I mean, you might as well, new peeps. Anyway, interview with the geologist is the next one. And of course, it's the geologist speaking. Remember, these are all going to be like this is the British staff, but there's also one called preppers, and those are going to be kind of similar, but they're a little bit different. Right? The preppers are the people who are out and around that aren't in like a distribution center. The distribution centers are going to have like the British staff. So if you see most of the people talking here are going to be from the British staff, they're going to be from distribution centers. They're not going to be the outside ones. Those are the preppers. So, I mean, it makes sense. But yeah, the interview with the geologist is basically saying that people used to believe that dinosaurs went extinct in the Cretaceous period, but they apparently didn't even live until the end of that period. So they're thinking, and the fact that the fossils were found on, you know, the last fossils were found in North America, it did support that, you know, dinosaurs were last living in this part of, you know, of the earth. So that's basically what she's saying, is there's evidence for that, and maybe we could use that to discover how to deal with the next one. As we know from Hartman, he already knows it has to do with them having extinction entities, and he used that to understand how we can deal with our current threat in our current extinction entity Amelie. But then we have, after that, interview with the paleontologist. By the way, Amelie is not going to be something where she's gonna, okay, of course we can do that when we talk more about Amelie, but you know, yeah, we'll talk about it later. But Amelie is going to be in the second game too, most likely, because Higgs references the lady in red. He's talking about Amelie. But either way, we'll get into don't need to go too much into that. Just a random thought. But I don't need to say much about this next one, interview with the paleontologist. It's the exact same that Hartman was saying. We already covered it in the Hartman video. Just the same thing he already said in everything, even in the cutscenes, where those were extinction entities in the previous big 5 extinctions, and now we have another one. So that's it. But into the evil biologist, not paleontologist, now we're an evil biologist. It might still be something that we have already heard before. And again, this is another one that doesn't say much. The main point of this one is a lot of text, but I'm gonna summarize it for you. The evil biologist says a bunch of stuff about extinctions, but then he says dooms is like an evolution for humans, you know, being able to have an enhanced perception of the beach. And they're gonna be the people who, it's like, if you know Marvel and mutants, how the mutants believed believed that they were the evolution of humans, and they were the new like creatures to succeed and to outlive the humans and be the new version. That's kind of what we have here, where Dooms is like that. So that's gonna be the thing. Yeah, but that's it. That's really all he says here. He says something like philosophical about, well, why do we humans worry about this when the dinosaurs didn't care? It's only humans that worry. And yeah, that is true. Like, humans are the ones that worry. I mean, sure, it's not like other animals don't worry, but humans are the main ones who will like talk about things, worry about it, think about it. You know, they'll have in-depth discussions, and I kind of like that. Now we're gonna get into tar bubbles up from the beach, which might be cool because there's gonna be a lot of tar in the next game. There's gonna be a theme where tar is way more important in the next game, because we have Tar Man, he also has a tar cat, and we have a tar woman, which is tomorrow. So we Elefanthi's character, we got lots of tar. So and we got information that tar has amino acids and can like birth things or something. It can like sustain life, and that's how things come out of it. Either way, this is something about tar. So tar is gonna be very important into the next game for sure. Again, more mumbo jumbo, but Aaron Hill is talking about this, and he is at Mountain Knot City, and he wonders how Amelie and them even made it through the tar. I mean, I don't know why you're asking about Amelie, for example, because I mean, what do we expect? She of course she can. But everyone else, yeah, I get it. But the main point here with all this, again, a bunch of text. The main point here is that we don't know much about tar, except that it was around before the Stranding, same as Timefall and Chiralium. And he's speculating that it's a byproduct of the beach. But we know speculations in this game are most likely true, so it's the byproduct of the beach. It's from the beach. It's related to the beach, obviously. He even says it's theoretical, but you know, it's not theoretical. If you can go through the tar, you can find yourself up in the beach. If you don't just die in there and drown. So yeah, I mean, how do you think things come out of it? Out of nowhere, they just come out of tar. and started grabbing you in the game. They came from the beach. That's it. So yeah, we're gonna see more about that in the second game, but yeah, there's not much about this one. I think he expanded on it in the second game. But for now, W stutter. For now, they didn't go too much into Tar. But he proposes an interesting idea. George Baton of Way Station west of Capital Knot City talks about how, well, we already know that chiralium comes from the beach, and they know that because it doesn't take degradation to timefall. Degradation. So he's thinking, why don't we just make our distribution centers out of it or our way stations out of it? But it's not good because it's lethal. Like you'll get chiralium poisoning. It poisons you. It's like lead poisoning, but like worse. So yeah, you don't want that near you, and you can't have a lot of it at once. It's very toxic. But yeah, it's not going to age or anything because it comes from the same place. Yeah, that's it for that one. Oxytocin. We're going to go back on oxytocin. We love talking about oxytocin within this game. We love it. But this one is kind of a sad thought on oxytocin, where Victor Frank, once again, who we were just talking about earlier, is talking about how him and Igor were like, separated from their folks after the first void out, and it was crazy. And they had to stay like holed up in places like underground or whatever, and in the ruins, in just horrible conditions, just not being able to really go out, and pandemic type stuff, you know what I mean? And in a sense, they were really struggling, but they were able to hold each other, and it was some oxytocin releasing, because that's, I guess, what it does, is what they're saying, is that the oxytocin releases when you're touching people, right? And then he relates it kind of to Sam, because Sam wasn't touching people, but it makes people, the BTs and the void outs, people just don't want to touch people because they're scared of that stuff. They're too scared. So people were touching each other less, and now they have to supply like oxytocin drugs to make up for that. And he says that's not great. How can we be getting to this level where we're so adverse to touching, and also just so against each other? We were at wars before, but he said even that was better than this. And now we're back to Igor, and in Why Planes and Drones Can't Fly, he's talking about how he wanted to be an astronaut, but he can't go up anymore because nothing flies. The Chiral clouds make it so you can't do anything. They destroy the flight systems somehow, and then they eat up comm signals, so we can't interact with any other continent long distance. So we can't even interact long distance with anything. And that's kind of the point, that they're building all these different stations made out of like going through the beach to connect it, because the beach is making it so they can't connect normally. Crazy. Now we have Philip North from the distribution center north of Mount Knot City, and he's saying how they literally captured antimatter. I'm like, what? They recovered antimatter and captured it. He said if the terrorists got this, they would have a field day with this antimatter, but they got it locked up. How did they capture maybe we've done that. Maybe we've done that and I don't know about it, but how did they capture antimatter? Literally, that's all he's saying. He said, hey, we captured antimatter. Antimatter? Yeah, we just captured it. That's it. But now we're going to get into actually a little bit of a more interesting one. These are the last two of this section. It's going to be the President's Ghost 1 and 2, which we did actually touch on earlier in Dead Man or Die Hardman's, and that was a while ago, so we're finally getting around to it. But yeah, we basically covered it, so we're not going to go too much into it because we did it last time. But essentially, he thought that this is like a guard, a Bridget guard, and he saw a ghost that looked like Amelie. He was like, no, how is there ghosts? And he's like, oh, well, 20 years after treatment, Amelie had made a miraculous recovery. She was able to move around, and then now they're living together. But before I saw like a ghost, I was like, I didn't know if I was seeing something or if I was sleepwalking. He looked just like the president, but he's like, oh, that's just Amelie. Okay, so he's just talking about seeing Amelie, literally. Second one is obviously Die Hardman. We did already go over this one, but again, she lied to Die Hardman and told him that Amelie had a locked-in syndrome or something. No, Amelie was just born on the beach, and she is on the beach. That's where she lives. So that was it, literally. There's nothing else to it. But that's it for that section. Now we're on to the preppers. These ones should be rather short as well. But we have the first one being the prepper engineer. And it's not much. He's just saying he still views, even though America doesn't really exist, he views the current state of things like he still feels like he's an American. Literally, that's all he says. The craftsman talks about how we're like Fragile Express in them, or like going around giving away guns, or not giving away, but transporting guns. And he says, why do this? We shouldn't be killing people, even if the mules or the demons, whatever, whoever it is, terrorists want to kill people. It doesn't mean we have to escalate, which is interesting because the second game is Sam escalating. Even in the trailer, we see Higgs saying like, "Oh, you brought a stick this time." I guess a porter does sometimes have to have a stick or something like that from time to time, or take something into his own hands, something like that. But either way, all this is saying in this one about the craftsman talking, terrorists posing as Fragile Express couriers, is that basically terrorists are going out, they're disguised as Fragile Express couriers, and they're doing horrible stuff. So yeah, and they're delivering the guns. But in this one, the Timefall farmers are just talking about how they didn't think that they could, but Amelie suggested that they use Timefall to increase their yield of products, and they were able to do it because Timefall makes things grow faster. So they're able to get stuff, and were able to make pizzas that we delivered to Peter, aka Higgs. And then they also gave us beer, which apparently I didn't see in the game, but they did that. So they were able to really just farm really fast because the Timefall ages things, and that's what that's about. Just explaining their thing. Then we got the junk dealer, but the junk dealer, who I believe actually ends up with this person that he's talking about, is talking about how he had an hourglass given to him by some girl, and he fell for her after that. But he said, I ain't cut up for love and relationships. But he's just happy to have the hourglass. But as we've seen from the actual stuff, she ends up being with him at the end. She goes to his place when we transport her over there. But yeah, I mean, he was like, she gave me an hourglass and I really like that. Seriously, that's all it is. I'm making it as simple as I can because there's a lot of words, but they're not saying much. So that was the junk dealer. Now we have the photographer, and she's talking about how her husband is sick of the city life, and even though they have a safe and comfortable life, it's a little suffocating to be in these little, these cities and these bunkers or whatever it is they're in. For them, they're in a shelter. But yeah, it's just they want to go out, and he's bringing his daughter to go take pictures and stuff. But he's saying we're bound for extinction because even though we got a daughter, not a lot of people are having them, right? Hardly anyone's having children these days, and basically they think we're gonna go extinct because no one is doing anything. And she's basically urging them, not really, but she's saying that that's an issue, which granted it is. I mean, we know that, especially with places like South Korea who have almost no babies. Doesn't mean everyone has to have them, but realistically, everyone has to have them. Over there? Yeah, over there. If I was South Korean right now, trust me, I would be going crazy trying to find someone to repopulate with. You know why? Because my whole entire nation is about to go extinct in no time. All right, so I gotta be. It's gotta be me. It's gotta be me. Okay, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't rush to do that. But I would definitely keep it in mind, for sure. More so if I was South Korean, definitely would be out thinking, maybe I could help this situation and not, add to the negativity of it. Granted, I know why they don't want to have babies, because they don't want to bring it into such a hard and difficult world that they live in, right? It's so difficult over there. So I get that, I understand it. Still, though, I think if you want to repopulate, if you want to make a better society, want to do all this good stuff, we have to start by having people, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm always happy for birth, you know what I mean? Birth. Always pretty good. Yeah, it seems pretty good to me. Because you see, way back when I was birthed too, I had a birth. I think it was pretty cool. You know what I mean? So either way, that was the photographer. And now we're on to the mountaineer, and then we have the spiritualist. And these ones are a little shorter. The mountaineer says something very similar to what we've been saying the whole game and what everyone else has been saying that humans weren't made to just be in the same place. They were meant to go outdoors and explore, move. In Africa, they moved around and they didn't just stay there. So even though they started there, they moved. So we have to go do crazy stuff and go out and about and go find stuff. Doesn't mean that you have to do specific things, but the main idea is to kind of go explore, I guess that's kind of what he's saying. So he doesn't like that people are all holed up because of this. And that was the main point, remember, of the game, is that we were divided, and he wanted us to be connected. Was the point that Kojima made with the game. And the next one with the spiritualist is saying something that I've been saying when I've been going into this new style of my videos. Is so funny that I'm seeing this. There's a lot of explaining within Death Stranding, but it isn't enough, and I keep wanting to explain what's really happening. But she says, no one has been able to explain the Death Stranding. Science is only suitable for observation, measurement, objectivity. You can measure as much as you want, as much as you like, but it's not going to really bring you closer to just, actually understanding. So sometimes you just have to expand your mind and heart, listen to the waves of the beach, and that's what she's saying, Though she did say that stuff like Stonehenge, the pyramids of Egypt, and all this different stuff was made as gateways to the beach. And I'm like, all right, cool. But then we have The America of the Past by the Elder. And this is a little bit political. It's referencing how it was the land of the free. In America, there was a dream, and he believed in the dream because he was an immigrant. And, it's like, well, there was a black guy, Obama, who was, president. They let him take a shot at the presidency and even let a woman do that, as we've seen at least twice. So, yeah. They said, but then they elected a guy who wanted to build a wall and keep our people out, Trump. So, you know what I'm saying? That's what he said. He said, I didn't trust America since that day. And then he trusted the UCA because of Sam. I don't know. I'm not even going to talk too much about that one. It's just political, schminical. I have nothing to say about it, good or bad. It's just, I don't care. We moved to prepper shelters. And this one's another bunch of mumbo jumbo from the Elder, but it's just saying people built shelters a lot, Before the Stranding, there was like lots of companies selling all kinds of shelters. There were people who were rich who would, sell bank vaults and reinforced containers and the like, and they broke into the shelter game, and they knew how to build them tough and sold them, And then there was the domestic guys, they're all about affordability, cheap and cheerful type of stuff, and they did a lot of good for people. So yeah, just selling shelters, that's it. Next is another prepper interview with the doctor. He doesn't say much. He says, I'm a doctor, not really licensed. Well, I mean, I am licensed, but it doesn't really matter in today's society. But I'm a doctor, and I try to help people. I'm one of the few ones that does. We need doctors. Literally, that's all he says. Literally, that's all he says. It's actually funny. The interview with the doctor literally has him just saying, hey, by the way, I'm a doctor. Like, we get it, bruh. We get it. You're a doctor. What about it? All right, we have actually not much left after this. That was preppers. We don't have much left. Maybe I missed some, but we only have a few left. We have Lucy's report, and we have other. So let's get into other first, because these ones should be a little easier to get through. But yeah, and they're not about a specific person, but other. We're in an asexual world. Oh no, we're getting into something here. I'm not gonna delve too much into this one. Seems another more political, schminical, but I can sum it up. It's the same thing we talked about earlier. The Death Stranding makes it so people aren't having sex as much, making babies, and that's an issue because they're not doing it because there's so much horrible stuff happening, and they don't want to bring a child into the world. Literally, that's it. It's a lot of text. Don't get me wrong. That's what it's saying. It's nothing new. But an astronaut is just going on and saying, again, to sum it up, that there's a discovery that the alignment of celestial bodies at the moment of one's birth can influence one's relationship with the condition known as dooms. So yeah, depending on how you were born, where the stars were, it's like zodiac signs. This is called Dooms and Zodiacs, literally. So the astrologer is talking about this. Dooms and Zodiacs. Sorry if I didn't mention that. But he's just saying that. The title says it all. The title says everything. So that's it, bro. That's literally it. This next one's just like, I don't know. It's Fragile's umbrella and suit. They're saying, so her umbrella, it like helps her go places. It like coordinates where she wants to go or something. Oh, and she like has like the stuff on her suit, the little spikes, that pop up and stuff. I don't know why that happens. It might be because of chiral concentrations or something, chiralium concentrations, something like that, when she senses them and stuff. But yeah, she like plots and lets her powers do the rest of like going to where she wants to go on the beach and stuff, from beach to beach to beach. But I don't even know how it really happens. That's it. That's literally what that was. But then we have a series here, because that was Fragile's umbrella and suit. This is from the report on the void out in Manhattan, and that's 3 parts. There's going to be a lot of series from now on, but this is a 3-parter, so that's what we'll get into. First one talks about BBs, how they had a mother, and then she was dead, brain dead, and then it was 7 months into a pregnancy, and then she was on life support, and they took her baby out, cut the umbilical cord, and they're like, what? I'm sorry, that's all it says. Sorry to tell you, that's what I'm reading, bro. Then we got part 2. Second one has nothing else but saying, the point is it says, oh, after he took this out, this development made bridge babies. That's it. The third one, literally, it's that simple. It's that simple. The third one talks about how they didn't have much information, but apparently the BB experiments made Manhattan explode. Some type of failure of it made that happen, and the president died in the explosion in Manhattan. And then Bridget Strand was the vice president. She became president, and she stopped and outlawed or whatever the bridge baby experiments, but we know she continued them later on. Anyway, that's about it for that. And then we have Clifford Unger. That's going to be a little bit interesting to get into this. But we have Clifford Unger review, case review, part 1, 2, and 3. We got part 1. And of course, this one's just talking about what we already talked about, where Die Hard Man killed Cliff. And it's just talking about what happened in that, you know what happened in the cutscene. Literally, he killed him at the end. Cliff was helping BB, then he stopped helping BB because he wanted to save his child. And he killed Cliff. Die Hard Man killed Cliff, and then apparently he was dead. He was on the run, and then he was dead apparently, but he obviously wasn't. That's it. And then part 2, so it's basically what we already know. And they talk about like a half story with almost full truths. They say how Die Hard Man was a born survivor, Die Hard Man, and that he was serving under President Strand after he served, and then he looked like he was actually helping Captain Unger, but then he killed him because he didn't want him to get out information. He didn't want to have him revealing what he knew, and then he chose to take his own life rather than face the consequences. The end part is the only part that's Cap. But then we have Clifford Unger part 3. This one's probably one of the shortest ones. And then as what happened, it tells you what happens, that after that happened, all that stuff happened. It's a lot of happenings. Then it ended up where President Strand continued the BB experiments like none happened. And then a new person called Die Hard Man was a new director and appointed to lead Bridges. Die Hard Man, just a new guy who popped up randomly. We know the story. But then we have Porter's Note 1. The point is he's faked his death. That's it. He faked his death. He just changed his identity and said, hey, I'm Die Hard Man now. That's it. So we have the Porter's Note number 1, Our Beloved Daughter. Porter's Note number 2, Our Beloved Daughter. That's our next ones. Those were all unknown in the previous ones, by the way, that last section. The ones in Manhattan were also unknown. So yeah, a lot of unknowns. But this one is an unidentified porter. So again, we don't know, but it says that it's actually, I'm looking on the wiki, it says it's actually Fragile's father talking, which makes sense because they're talking about a daughter. But he doesn't say much. He says that, he wants to connect things, get America back on her feet, and that him and her mother were doing that, and they really wanted to help people in need. And he couldn't help but fall for her when she was talking about her feeling like she has a responsibility to bring folks back together. That the country was a beacon of freedom and hope. So yeah, that's what he's saying there. But then in the part 2, because this is all messages to Fragile, but then it explains what happened to Coffin, where because she took up a new name, right? Coffin. But basically they were doing stuff with Bridges, and then they found out that Bridges was like doing the BB experiments. They don't get to live a life. They're basically sacrificing unborn children because guess what? They don't get to be born, and when they're faulty, they get burned. They don't get to live. Either way, literally sacrificing unborn children. And yeah, that's why I don't like BB experiments, but they thought it was necessary. So that's why Coffin left, and she didn't tell anyone about it. She lied to her daughter about it too, and so did her father. And what happened was she went underground to go make a crew to go deal with the problem of Bridges. And as we've seen, it didn't work out because they just got destroyed by Bridges anyway by getting blown up into was it an incinerator, I believe, just blown up, and then they had like cryocontamination, and she died like underground. She just basically fall flat in her face, but she tried though. You know what I mean? At least she tried. But then we have a letter from a Porter 1. It's identified Porter, which apparently that's still Fragile's father. So yeah, and it looks like he's talking maybe to Coffin now. And he just says to Coffin that we're doing well, her daughter's doing well, be careful out there, and he'll pass on the Masanga when the time is right. Yeah, that's it. And then a letter from a Porter 2. There's not much in these, it's just pretty simple stuff. And this one is like super hopeful that we're going to rebuild America, that Sam's going to help us. And he says that, you did it. You stopped the BB program. Didn't. But he's like, oh, you stopped it. Bridges is going to help us. It's going to be great. And then, your daughter's still fine. And Sam's going to help us connect Americas. That's what he says. So then we have memo number 1, a call to arms. And then we have all the way to memo number 5. I'm sorry, I'm really speed running this. Memo number 2 to 5 is, because I actually have a little bit more to get to. So those ones are from mother to daughter, but this one is a call to arms. It's unknown who it's speaking, but I think it's probably Coffin, and it's saying that they covered up the tracks and took us out for good measure. So basically the thing that he was saying earlier, they actually just covered up the BB experiments, and she's saying we gotta fight and get Bridges back, get back at them, because they faked, they blew the place up that they're trying to stop, and then they killed them out, Coffin and her crew, and they covered up the BB experiments saying, oh, we're not doing them anymore, but they still are. So yeah. And then we have from mother to daughter. So that was probably Coffin. But yeah, this one is probably Coffin as well. The rest of them. So she's talking now. She's going to be talking to Fragile. And in this one, she just says, even though everything else is lost, I still have my daughter and I really love her. That's literally all she says. So that's it. And then the next one, which is Memo 3. And then it explains how, what happened with the Bridges factory. It blew up. And then the researchers, guards, babies, even their own people died. And they got Coffin and her crew went beneath ground, but they had chiralium all over them. The region was thick with it. And they have gone gestalt, which I believe just means mules. But they've gone crazy because of the chiralium poisoning. So she said, I wish y'all luck. You rebuild America, please. Then we have the next one, which is a little bit longer. But this one, she talks about meeting Higgs as well. And that she talks about his father and all we talked about in the last one. Go check the Higgs video out. You can go and talk about that, see about that. But his father was hurting him. But in general, she's just saying that she found out about the BB experiments as she was delivering BB pods and stuff. And she didn't like it. Yeah, that's it. This is funny as ever, bro. Every time. We have the last memo. But the last one, again, simple. She tells Peter, Higgs, to go in, make a resistance while she goes and stops the BBs in the facility with her group at that time. And he says that Peter's gonna outlive her and the cause will outlive her and to protect her daughter, which he didn't do. And that's it for that. And then we have one last section, which is Lucy's report. Should be simple. We have all of the different reports up to 12, but before that, it says concerning the void out in the satellite town of UCA 01 OC. But apparently Lucy Strand, who was Sam's wife, had a child named Lou, and literally she died in a void out somehow, right? So they assume that she took a drug to do it, and then Sam came back and died in the explosion, but he was a repatriate, so he came back. But Lucy has a lot of text, but not a lot of substance, so I'm actually just gonna read her biography, and it will explain everything that's said in her notes. So we're gonna keep it to that. With Coffin, we kind of retreaded a couple things, so let's not keep doing that. Let's finish it up, all right? So yeah, Lucy, we're gonna find out literally just who she is because that's all this is gonna talk about. So Lucy was a therapist who was approached by Bridget to help Sam overcome his fear of being like touched, and that's why they had like sessions of like therapy with him. And Sam got mad at her because she said that him being having Dooms being a repatriate at the beach, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. He ain't really like that. So we got mad at her for that. But then Sam apparently committed to a psych ward. No. So Sam goes into GTA and he goes in front of a car. And then he repatriates in front of her. For some reason he did that. I don't know why. But Lucy gives in to that strong moment and says, all right, let's date. Let's go. Let's get married. She literally quits her job to go be with him. Like, this is crazy. Just like that. You went into GTA and ran in front of that car so well, and then you came back. Wow, I gotta be with you now. And Lucy apparently knew everything. So she started having nightmares because of Dooms, because Luis, she got pregnant, right? And then Luis, or Lou, was... well, that's what they're going to call her. But Lou had Dooms passed on from Sam, and Amelie, or Bridget, took her to the beach and showed her how it's really about, and she knew the nature of Bridget and Amelie, and the trigger of the Death Stranding, and everything. She knew everything. And then Lucy also went into GTA, but this time she jumped out from skydiving in a plane. We'll have to see if she lands or not. I'm sorry. I just can't say it on YouTube. I can't say the exact words. I'm trying to use analogies, but you get what I'm trying to say, all right? Point is, she ain't alive no more. It's to her own doing. But then Sam was unable to contact Lucy. He returned home, and then a void out happened. But he came back, of course, repatriate. Rumors spread that he killed her, but nah. But the grief of losing his wife and unborn daughter made him not want to be touched. Again. And then he just left. Yeah. He just left everyone and went on his own. Changed his identity, cut contact with Amelie and Bridget, and left. Yeah. So that's the story. That's what we were going to get into, But it's kind of sad that Lucy went this way, But that is all of the interviews. We're done now. That's all of them. That was the rest of them. But it definitely is sad, Lucy in particular, because she didn't know how to deal with everything that she saw. She had no clue how to deal with the idea of the beach, the idea of all these different elements, how Lou ties in. She didn't know how to deal with that. Now I think in the second game we're gonna realize that Lou is the same Lou. They're both the same Lou as in the first. But maybe I'm wrong. You know, there's gonna be a lot of weird stuff with that. But yeah, there's a lot of theories on Lou. It's one of the biggest theories, and we don't know much about Lou. You know, so yeah, that's it for the interviews. I got through them pretty fast. Well, not that fast, but fast enough. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's been fun talking about this stuff. And if you didn't see the previous episodes, we talked about a bunch of other stuff. This one was the least interesting one because it's just a lot of mumbo jumbo, to be real. But check in the description for more interesting episodes. My favorite, or one of my favorites, is Dead Man. I really like that one. I also really like Hartman. Those are some of my favorite ones. But yeah, go ahead and check in the description down below for all of Death Stranding stuff, lore related stuff. And yeah, that's about it. You know what I'm saying? So stay tuned for more lore videos. I mean, we're going to be jumping into the lore of the next game, you know, because let's be honest, there's so many questions that we just won't know until they're answered in the second game. So we just kind of have to wait for that, to be real. So yeah, that's what we're going to basically be waiting for. But until then, make sure you leave a like if you liked, a dislike if you didn't like, or if you disliked, and go ahead and leave a sub. You know what I'm saying? Sub up for more just W content from your boy. Comment down below what you think. I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully. Peace.